My name is John Dobson. I'm Associate Professor of Entrepreneurship. And today I'm going to talk to you about the process that entrepreneurs use to develop and test ideas. And it's part of this affordable loss concept that I talked about before, where entrepreneurs, while they might think of the $1 million it's going to make, successful entrepreneurs take their idea and develop and test solutions prior to investing lots of money, time and effort into it. And so what we have is the business life cycle, which is the bell curve. And in this pre-new venture creation phase or new idea development phase, you develop and test potential solutions to this problem. And so affordable loss really focuses on the fact that if what you've developed and tested doesn't work, have you risked so little time and resources that you can still continue developing the idea? And this tool I'm going to present, or this framework I'm going to present, will help you narrow down to the granular level, allowing you to develop and test potential solutions. And so what often happens is we focus a lot on the macro or the societal level. So we'll use the example of hunger in America. 1 in 10 kids in the US goes to bed hungry, people have food insecurity, and students will talk a lot about sort of the macro overview of the problem. And it gives you the pretense that you've done a lot of research and really know about it, but the problem is just so big, and governments have spent billions of dollars trying to solve it. So it doesn't give the entrepreneur sort of that granular thing of something you can develop and test. And we want to dive down deeper into it. And so as I'm asking students and potential entrepreneurs about their idea, then they start explaining the meso or the industry level. And so in the US, in the hunger industry, there's food banks, there's soup kitchens, there's after-school programs, there's school lunches. That's all the industry overview. Again, too big, too complex for an entrepreneur to really get their hands around to try to solve. And then what you do is you get to the micro level, and this is the organizational level. And so as a organizational level, the entrepreneur talks about, well, I work for this soup kitchen, or I work for a food bank. And at least you're getting now to something a little more that you can get your hands around. But again, an organizational change is really difficult. And so what we need to do is build solutions from the bottom up. And so what you want to do is say, okay, now let's go somewhere deeper. And so you have the team dynamics. And so as you're talking to the students, they're like, okay, so I work on a team, and every Friday night we're cooking a meal. And so this is a group dynamic. And then again, team dynamics are difficult. So what you want to go is a step further into this granular component. And the idea is that every Friday night we have problems A, B, and C. And it's a wicked problem. And what wicked means is that it's a recurring, persistent, hard to define, people are unable to fix it. And so that element, something that's the specific incident that happens, that gives you something small enough that you can develop and test a solution. And the idea is that instead of trying to change the organizational dynamics or the macro, the society, you're simply trying to change this activity, this recurring wicked problem that happens on a Friday night. And then, after you fix that, you start working on other wicked problems. And slowly, you start building up successes. And one way that you know that you're being successful is that as you've solved these problems, your team starts adopting them, and then other teams start adopting them. And so before you know it, you've created these novel solutions that then allow you to develop solutions bottom up to overall attempt to solve elements of this wicked problem. And so that's how I want you to think about when you're thinking of a problem. Just give a brief summary of the macro component, another summary of the industry, just to show that the context, but the overview. But what's really important is what's happening at this individual level. And the reason is that you as a change agent, as an entrepreneur, have authority and access to make those changes. Whereas you don't have authority and access to make the macro changes. So take the concept of affordable laws and take the concept of what you actually have control of, and therefore implement change based on what you have access and authority to control on. Thank you very much. And we'll see you the next time.